Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Welcome to today's episode of How Somebody Else is About to Get F. I'm your host, Louis Rossman. Today we're going to be continuing going over Bambu Labs. Bambu Lab is a company that makes 3D printers that make it a lot easier to get into 3D printing if you don't understand how everything works when it comes to 3D printing. And one of the things they did a year and a half ago that I went over in these videos is they added these authorization controls that did not exist when people bought the printers that limits how third-party software can work with the printers and limits what you're able to do with it. And this is something that pissed off a lot of people. They like the fact that it's a very easy to use ecosystem, but they don't like the fact that it was sold with this set of freedoms and now it has less. Anyway, there's something called Orca Slicer. It is a third-party slicer, and there are limitations put on how you can use it. For those of you who don't do 3D printing professionally, you go, what the hell is that? TLDR, a slicer is the thing that takes the really cool image and 3D model of what it is you want to make and tells the 3D printer how to make it. It's what makes the 3D printer go vroom. Now, many people wanted to use these third-party slicers, and they don't want to deal with Bambu Lab's authentication system. So someone came out with code that allows you to just use the 3D printer the way you were able to use it when you first bought it, which I think is great. And this developer received a message saying that it would then come with a cease and desist notice if he did not remove his code, along with what I perceive to be, in my opinion, legal threats. And Bambu Lab also invoked and mentioned Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act when they were sending this developer the threat. I was able to confirm this from the messages that I've seen. Section 1201 of the DMCA is a law that criminalizes the breaking of a digital lock, even if it's to fix something that you bought and paid for so you can use it again. This is the same law that gets used to sue ink cartridge manufacturers when they make ink cartridges that work with printers that have DRM in them. So when Lexmark wanted to make printers that would only work when you bought Lexmark ink, and somebody else figured out how to get around this so you could buy ink from people that are not going to rip you off and bend you over, they got sued. And they used this garbage law for that lawsuit. I despise this law, and it is a law that Fulu Foundation is dedicated to reforming in the United States. So they sent this notice out, and the developer took down his code. Now, I offered $10,000 if he put his code back up, and we had a good conversation back and forth, and he said, I'm not interested in a prolonged legal battle. I simply wanted to make the point that Bambu Lab is violating the GPL. What is AGPL? AGPL is a software license, and the way that this software license works is if I make a program using AGPL, that means that if anybody uses my code, they have to make my code available, they have to make their changes available for free, they have to allow anybody to redistribute it and modify it in any way. So if I make closed source software, you don't have the right to the code to that software. But if I make open source software and you decide to use my software to make your software, you have to make the changes available. And if you don't like it, then you don't use my code. Bambu Labs chose to use other people's code when making their software. And the code that they were using was AGPL. What that means is that when Bambu Labs uses that code to make their own software, they have to make elements of their own software available for anybody to use, redistribute, or modify. That's the law. That's the way it works. That's what they agreed to at the point that they used it. And what they tried to do is change this. So what Powell did to make things work the way they did before is he took Bambu Labs open source code. He took that AGPL code, he posted it to his repo and said, you can use this in order to use your printer again the way you did before. What Bambu Lab said is that he was impersonating something else and doing this in a deceptive manner. They tried to make it sound like what Pavel was doing was hacking and wrong. And I thought that this was absolutely hysterical. They were also claiming that this is against their terms of service, and they don't seem to understand how this works. This is a very, very oversimplified way of putting it. But when you use a web browser like Edge or Chrome or Safari or Firefox, there are websites that will be able to tell which web browser you are using because the web browser reports something called a user agent. That's kind of like its name. It's kind of like the make and model of a car. So when you use Safari, it will report Safari version this or Chrome version 50. That's the way it works. And Bambu's software is the same. So when he created his fork of this software so that you could use your printer the way you did before, he left in Bambu's own AGPL code that said the name of the software and the version of the software. He never even modified this part of the software. He literally reused Bambu's own AGPL code released under an AGPL license that allows anybody to be able to redistribute, modify, and use the code as they please. Bambu Lab said as follows: when this particular Orca Slicer 4 communicates with our cloud services, it quietly introduces itself as official Bambu Studio, with a hard-coded version number and all. That's precisely the point where code modification crosses into impersonation. Modifying and distributing AGPL code? Absolutely. But impersonating official clients in communication with our cloud infrastructure is not allowed. Now, this is interesting to me for a number of reasons because he never actually modified the code. He's literally using Bambu Lab's own open source AGPL code without modifying it. And I link it right here in this wiki. He did not impersonate anything. He literally just used that software. Now, they're saying that their cloud is a private service and access to it is governed by a user agreement in terms of service, not an AGPL license. But they're not filing a takedown on anything related to their cloud cloud service, they're filing a takedown notice on his AGPL code, which is literally a copy and paste of Bambu Studios' AGPL code. AGPL license code is licensed as follows, and I quote, "You may not impose any further restrictions on the exercise of the rights granted or affirmed under this license. All other non-permissive additional terms are considered further restrictions within the meaning of Section 10. If the program as you received it or any part of it contains a notice stating it is governed by this license, along with a term that is a further restriction, you may remove that term." AGPL license code means that anything you make from it cannot have further restrictions on it. That is the price if you want to reuse somebody else's open source code, and that's what they agreed to. Now, here's what the terms of use of Bambu's cloud say. "Except as otherwise expressly permitted, you shall not, nor allow any other person to misappropriate, intrude, or make other inappropriate use of the product, included but not limited to modify, discoder," I think they mean disorder, but maybe that's a typo, "copy, reverse engineer, publish, publicly disseminate, decompile, export codes, disassemble, or create derivatives of the product in any way." That's not how this works. They filed a takedown notice on a code library that is literally a copy and paste of Bambu Lab's own code. A Reddit user made a great analogy here. It's more like someone opened a gym on a public square and then decided to try to forbid people from using the public square. I can't open a gym in Union Square and then get people in trouble for trespassing on my gym that was built on somebody else's property. You can't do that. That's not how any of this works. The thing that I find the funniest about this is not only did they try to get the code taken down this way, they also tried to use Section 1201, which says you're not allowed to break a digital lock to gain access to a protected work. Here, you can't do that. There's no breaking of a digital lock here. There's not even a digital lock. It's literally he literally took your own software and then your cloud service just accepted it. If you want to sue somebody, you can sue yourself. But I'm going to give you a great opportunity here because you think that Section 1201 actually applies here. Section 1201 does come with a maximum penalty of up to 3 to 5 years in federal prison. And I understand why somebody else would not want to deal with that. So I uploaded the code to my own GitHub. If you want to check it out here. Now, if you're one of the lawyers for Bambu Labs, that one of the people that is stupid enough to take this fucking case, I sincerely hope that you are not taking this case on contingency, by the way. Please charge an hourly fee. But just in case you think that this is going to be an easy win, let me just introduce myself. Hi, my name is Louis Rossman. 10 years ago, Apple's law firm, Kilpatrick & Townsend, asked that I would remove my repair videos because they had schematics in them, and I never did. They've remained up for over the last 10 years. In Colorado, I was able to get a right to repair bill passed that John Deere was opposed to. We also got one passed for wheelchairs. In Minnesota, we were also able to get a right to repair bill passed. In Colorado, Cisco tried to ruin that bill along with IBM, spent several $100,000 trying to, and we won there. When I worked at Fudo, I recruited a team that creates an application called GrayJ, a third-party viewer that allows you to view YouTube videos and videos across all platforms. Google didn't like this. They sent a cease and desist to us. I responded to them, and GrayJ remains up to this day, and you can still download it. Another company wanted to sue me for about $10,000 a day. One day after my response, his lawyer fired him. If you think that you can do better than Apple, Google, Cisco, IBM, John Deere, and the entire medical industry, well, be my guest. You can try, but I don't think it's going to end very well for you. And here's a message that I have for Bambu Labs. If you so much as send me a fucking postcard, here's what I'm going to do to you. Number one, I'm going to hire the best lawyers to destroy your entire Section 1201 claim. We will make you look so bad that this will be part of the precedent that we use for reforming this law in the United States of America. Number two, AGPL violations. AGPL violations are when large companies use open source code that other people have made and they don't redistribute it or they place limits on it. That is against the license. John Deere has done this. Vizio has done this. Tons of companies do this because they realize that for the most part, the people that make code like this, the people that are just willing to help the community and make code that anybody can use and redistribute with no limits on it, they tend to be a little bit more socialistic-y, communist-y in nature. I'm not even saying that as a bad thing. My point is they're just not the type of people that have a lawyer on speed dial to say, sue that company and get them in trouble for this. They're just the type of people that just want to make and create cool stuff and have fun and help the world. And most companies know this. They realize that there's nobody to go after people who take part in these types of flagrant AGPL violations. That's not me. I know the organizations that have gone after the companies that have abused AGPL license code and tried to hide it behind some sort of paywall or restriction later that have not reproduced it or lied about using AGPL code, some of them with great success. And I'd be more than happy to call them up and ask if they could start going after you. Combing through all your code, combing through your terms of service, seeing what laws you've broken, seeing whether or not you should have to redo your entire fucking software stack from beginning to end in order to not be in violation. Whatever amount of money that you cost me, I will ensure that I cost you a minimum of 5 to 20 times that in legal fees. I am that confident in the fact that your case is garbage. So do your best. Try to take down my GitHub repo. Send me a cease and desist. I look forward to your notice. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. And if you want to learn about Section 1201 of the DMCA, why it is one of the most ownership-unfriendly laws in the books in the United States of America, and why it needs to get the fuck out of here, if not at the very least get reformed, check out fulu.org, where we talk about these items on a regular basis. Read around and stick around the channel. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. And again, Bambu Lab, if the legal team at Bambu Lab is watching this, make my day. I'll have fun with this one.
We also have the duty not to infringe the IP rights in the process. It is in fact the manufacturers who have the relevant rights, not consumers.